going to talk on the HHS mandate. What is it? What isn't it? And that will be presented by Greg Schleppenbach, Bishops Pastoral Plan for Pro-Life Activities Executive Director. Greg.
Okay, I want to be heard. Can you hear me? Yeah! Just gotta have a big mouth. I've been asked to give some background information on how we got to this point. Very important for us to understand where this came from and what needs to be done to counteract it. This came from the federal health care law, commonly referred to as Obamacare. This federal health care law requires, amongst the 1,000 pages or so, that all health care plans must cover preventive health care services for women without co-pays and without any other cost saving or cost sharing. The law did not specify what services would be included. It delegated that task to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services asked a panel from the Institute on Medicine, which, not surprisingly, included a lot of Planned Parenthood board members, to identify what these preventive services would be. The Institute on Medicine panel recommended including female sterilization and all FDA-approved prescription contraceptives, which includes drugs that can cause abortions. The Secretary of Health and Human Services not only accepted this recommendation, she adopted an incredibly narrow religious exemption for religious employers. That is unprecedented in federal or state law. They did not include insurers, schools with student health plans, families purchasing insurance, or businesses owned by people of faith who have religious or moral objections to providing and paying for such services. What's worse, even religious employers are exempt only if their purpose is to inculcate religious doctrine, and they hire and serve mainly people of their own faith. Most religious institutions providing health, educational, or charitable services to others have no protection. Under this definition, it's been said many times, far more eloquently than I, Jesus and his disciples would not qualify as religious enough, since he healed the needy regardless of religious affiliation and taught followers to do the same. Unfortunately, despite strong and substantial opposition to this mandate and its unprecedented trampling of religious liberty, and direct assurances to Cardinal Dolan, who is president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, President Obama issued his mandate without any changes on January 20th. Following a firestorm of protests by people of every faith and no faith at both ends of the political spectrum, President Obama announced on February 10th that he would make some accommodations to address the mandate's trampling of religious freedom. Not only were those accommodations completely and utterly inadequate, but what most people don't realize, listen carefully, the very same day he spoke to the nation with this offer of an accommodation, his administration was quietly publishing in the Federal Register this mandate without any change and making it law.
Liar. He's a liar. Liar.
What we got that day was a promise, and what we've gotten since is a promise that he will address these concerns. The latest, last Saturday, the latest article in the Omaha World Herald about the new accommodations he's going to make. There was one paragraph, if you read that article, that really mattered. Final details of this new policy would be issued after the November elections. And we wonder why so many are cynical about our government. The second thing I want to do is I want to clarify what this debate is and is not. This is not about access to contraception, which is ubiquitous and inexpensive, even when it is not provided by the church's hand and with the church's funds. This is not about religious freedom of Catholics only, but also of those who recognize that their cherished beliefs may be next on the block. This is not about the bishops somehow banning contraception, when the U.S. Supreme Court took that issue off the table 2 generations ago. Indeed, this is not about the church wanting to force anybody to do anything. It is instead about the federal government forcing the church, consisting of its faithful and all but a few of its institutions, to act against church teachings. This is not a matter of opposition to universal health care, which has been a concern of the Bishops' Conference since 1919. This is not a fight we want or asked for, but one forced upon us by government on its own timing. Finally, this is not a Republican or a Democratic or a conservative or a liberal issue. This is an American issue. So what is this about? It's about an unprecedented and unwarranted government definition of religion, one that is extremely narrow in terms of what Health and Human Services deems a religious employer deserving of exemption and protection. It is a mandate to act against our teachings, not merely a government foray into internal church governance, but those deemed by Health and Human Services not to be religious employers will be forced by government to violate their own teachings within their very own institutions. Finally, it is a violation of personal civil rights. The HHS mandate creates still a third class, those with no conscience protection at all, individuals who in their daily lives strive constantly to act in accordance with their faith and moral values. They too face a government mandate to aid in providing services contrary to those values, whether it's their sponsoring of or payment for insurance as employers, their payment of insurance premiums as employees, or as insurers themselves, without even the semblance of an exemption. I will conclude with the words of Cardinal Timothy Dolan, again, President of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. He said, "We did not ask for this fight, but we will not run from it." Thank you.
The rest of the speakers, if you can yell like Ann and Greg, you'll do great. Everybody will hear you. The next speaker is